Name is Masoro Musate. I'm the Press Secretary to His Excellency the President of Botswana, and I will be your Director of Proceedings for this afternoon. The joint press brief comes at the occasion of the visit of the Republic. The joint press brief comes at the invitation of His Excellency the President to the Honourable Prime Minister of Commonwealth of the. For members of the media, we will be taking questions immediately after our Excellencies have given us their remarks. At this point, I'd like to humbly request His Excellency Dr. Mokgweetsi Eric Keabetswe Masisi to take to the lectern and address members of the media. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies. Your Excellency the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and your esteemed delegation of ministers and senior officials, ministers from Botswana and senior officials, members of the Fourth Estate, a very good afternoon. Well, it pleases us to be here this afternoon to share with you the results of our engagements Your Excellency the Prime Minister that we've had since the arrival of the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas on our shores. This visit, which came about out of an invitation that I issued for him to visit Botswana, when we had honored an invitation by him to visit the Bahamas last year, September, to share with you, has brought us here. In our engagements, we had, since the arrival of, discussed the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas on a number of sectoral areas. This visit, the intention of which discussion was to deepen, to broaden our bilateral relations, which were building on the foundations laid by the former Prime Minister of the Bahamas, who himself had visited Botswana, and the former President of Botswana, who had visited the Bahamas. And so we fast forward to today, where my dear brother arrived this morning, having undertaken a 10-hour-plus journey, which was a halfway to here from Bahamas, after nearly equal amount of time from Nassau to London, to visit us, to take further our relations in the areas of education and vocational technical training, to take forward our discussions in areas of tourism, youth, gender, and culture, and financial services or the banking sector, to name but a few. And so it pleased me to inform that we held discussions, first among the two of us, followed by the official discussions, which revolved around these areas, where we converged and agreed to relate even more by way of exchanges, by way of finalizing our memoranda of agreement, by way of determining to build alliances, coalitions, revolved around agreeing to work together these areas. And of course, as where we heads of government would and agreed when they meet, we did discuss issues around our finalizing our political landscape agreement, issues around international order and security and governance. And Prime Minister Davis, coming from the CARICOM region, updated me on the recent developments, the biggest of which has been the issues surrounding the instability in Haiti and what they're doing about it. And I updated him on where we are at in SADC with respect to things similar. But luckily and happily, we have been pleased to meet, and so have been our ministers. We're delighted to show and expose our guest to some of our institutions, such as the BDIH, Botswana Digital Innovation Hub, exposed to what we do with smart bots, which they are deeply interested in, and we've agreed to collaborate. They would visit the Bank of Botswana, because the Bahamas is arguably one of the most advanced countries when it comes to digital currencies, cryptocurrency, and the regulation thereof. We've also arranged for them to be able to undertake a visit to the DTC, Diamond Trading Center, and expose them to some of our magnificent diamonds and how they get governed. And we couldn't do that without updating the Prime Minister and his delegation about the opportunities that present themselves with respect to our most valuable asset, diamonds, and the challenges, the most recent of which have been to do with attempts that we have rebuffed by the G7 to subject our diamonds from from mine-producing countries, diamond-producing countries, to submit their diamonds to being processed through a single node in Antwerp prior to their acceptance as non-Russian conflict diamonds in the G7 markets. And we've explained what a threat this is to our diamond industry, and that the threat was so severe that it would, in and of itself, undermine all our efforts at trying to rivet ourselves from being a rough producer of diamonds that trade a primary product, and deny us the opportunity of beneficiation and all that comes with it, and the value addition that would bring about the jobs and the upscaling of technology that we're determined to attain. We've also discussed our geopolitical environment in the multilateral space, and yet again recognize that it would seem curious that there are some who appoint themselves as a determiner of standards in matters to do with financial management and governance. And it would seem they tend to target certain countries who are negatively affected by their actions. And so we want to bring about a coalition of like-minded to mitigate against these, and hopefully through our commitment to research and development, be able to generate solutions that might one day become global solutions. And we would want to be major players in that space. So it's not without reason that the Prime Minister visits Botswana. It was not without reason that I visited the Bahamas. And how could I go to the Bahamas and not be exposed to some of the most spectacular attributes of the Bahamas? Their crystal white beaches, blue beaches, serene, opulence of nature. I had to think of a response. And yes, my opportunity has come. The Prime Minister is here, and we will have opportunity of making him come in to see our jewel in the middle of the Kalahari, the majestic Okavango Delta, where the cosmos of nature meets. And yes, you do feel the thumb beat of creation. Welcome to my country, Right Honourable Prime Minister and your delegation. This is Botswana. We have a wonderful press. They are a curious press. They will ask us questions, some difficult and some easy. They mean well. We usually answer as best we can, and then they go and give meaning to it. So thank you for this opportunity. I don't know if I should take the opportunity to invite you, Your Excellency, to make some opening remarks.
Thank you very much, my brother. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, distinguished guests, let me say good afternoon to all of you. You know, it fills me with immense joy and a deep sense of privilege to be here among friends in the vibrant and beautiful Republic of Botswana, representing not just the Bahamas, but the spirit of unity and cooperation that transcends oceans. I'm here not merely in my capacity as Prime Minister, but as someone who deeply believes in the power of connection and the beauty of exchange. I want to thank His Excellency Dr. Masisi and the people of the Republic of Botswana for their hospitality. Your invitation is a bridge being built between our nations, a gesture that signifies hope and the promise of mutual growth. In Botswana, there's a saying, "Motho ke motho ka batho." Let me translate. I am because we are. You know, this proverb resonates deeply with the Bahamian spirit, where community and shared progress form the cornerstone of our identity. As today begins my official visit, I'm reminded that this philosophy underpins our aspirations of being here, to strengthen the bonds that unite us and explore new territories of collaboration for the prosperity of our people. Our shared journey towards sustainable development, embracing technology, and addressing climate change is more than just a meeting of minds. It's a partnership of hearts aiming to secure a brighter future for both our nations. We're here to listen, to learn, to share, and engage in dialogue that I believe would lead to paths of shared success and opportunities that our children will inherit and thank us for. Recalling the visit of His Excellency to the Bahamas last year, I'm reminded of the seeds of friendship that were sown. That visit was a cornerstone moment, paving the way for the Memorandum of Understanding that has since blossomed into avenues of cooperation across diverse sectors. During those precious moments of exchange, we realized the vast potential that lies in our partnership, a realization that today's discussions will undoubtedly deepen. My brother Masisi, your leadership has significantly influenced Botswana, navigating it through challenges with a focus on stability and progressive reforms, balancing economic diversification with technological and environmental advancements. Your tenure has shown a commitment to sustainable growth, resulting in an enhanced effort for Botswana's global standing. Our bilateral meeting earlier was fruitful and indicative of the vast potential our countries have for collaboration. It is clear that the Bahamas and Botswana are on a path of significant partnership, ready to explore and harness opportunities for our mutual benefit. I'm excited to announce that the Bahamas is prepared to open doors for the people of Botswana to come and learn our approach, for example, to tourism and hospitality. This exchange will undoubtedly enrich both our countries, fostering growth and innovation. Furthermore, the Bahamas remains committed to assisting the Central Bank of Botswana in the development of its digital currency. This venture speaks to our shared vision of embracing technology for economic advancement. I believe, for example, that the island of Grand Bahama is poised to play an integral role in trade between the United States and Africa, bridging continents and cultures. Similarly, we are also eager to explore programs akin to those we have with Ghana, focusing on the exchange of technical medical nurses and allied health professionals, which will enrich the Bahamas' healthcare system with invaluable expertise and compassion. Building on our signed Memorandum of Understanding, which has already opened doors to numerous opportunities for educational exchange, we are thrilled to further expand our partnership. The Government of the Bahamas is pleased to announce that our Bahamas Agriculture and Marine Resources will sign a Memorandum of Understanding with the Botswana University of Agriculture and Natural Resources. This collaboration will pave the way for groundbreaking research and development in both our countries, leveraging our rich natural resources for sustainable progress. To His Excellency President Masisi and all the gracious people of Botswana, your warmth, your generosity touch us deeply. We embark on these talks with the hope and determination to foster a relationship that, like the mighty baobab, will grow strong and enduring, offering shade and shelter to our generations yet to come. I look forward to the days ahead, and I am optimistic about the seeds of cooperation we are about to sow. Together, let us cultivate a garden of prosperity that will stand as a testament to the strength of our partnership. I want to thank you all for the warm welcome. Let's make history together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellencies.
The Inquisition.
At this juncture, I call upon our members of the Fourth Estate to ask our esteemed Excellencies questions. Those who are holding the roving mics, may you please stand up and be seen. I can see a show of hand there. Please state your name and the media house that you come from.
Is it on?
Yes, it is on.
Good afternoon. My name is Botlako from the Botswana Guardian. Last year, Your Excellencies, Botswana undertook a state visit to Bahamas, and there were 4 key issues that were stated at the closing press conference, which is education, agriculture, culture, and tourism. From those discussions, have the 2 countries made any developments that stemmed from the discussions that were had between the 2 presidents and their counterparts? And the second question is to Prime Minister Davis. We all understand that Bahamas excels in tourism. Over and beyond what you just stated, being that Bahamas is opening its doors for Botswana to go and learn or benchmark from your nation, what is it that we can learn from your nation, or what are some of the secrets that we can employ to improve our tourism sector? And then lastly, to our President Masisi, I'd like to take you a bit back to last year's closing press brief at Bahamas. One of the things that Prime Minister Davis noted was that one of the areas that Bahamas will benefit from Botswana is by sending researchers or scholars to Botswana to research on things such as HIV and AIDS research. Can I please have an update on how far that program is going, or when can we see further developments on that end? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another question from? Please state your name and the media house to which you come from.
My name is Mompati Tlankane from Mire and the Monitor newspapers. My first question is, during last year's visit in Bahamas, you understand that the memorandum of understanding was, among others, meant to foster deeper collaboration and leverage on unique collaboration. Do you have any joint challenges you aim to address as you forge closer ties? The second one is directed to Prime Minister Davis. I've heard that the Bahamas strives to solidify its presence on the global stage by fostering strong ties with African countries like Botswana. Are there any specific areas in Botswana you want to explore for mutual benefit and growth? Thank you.
Is there another hand from the media? Yes. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Your Excellencies. My name is Owen Taitile Boti from BTV News. I got two questions, especially in the multilateral cooperation. I mean, there's been calls among African countries and the like-minded countries in relation to the reforms of the Security Council and the UN at large. I want to know from the Caribbean states, is that an issue also, and do you think that is justified? There has been calls among African countries and others also about the reforms of the United Nations Security Council. I want to know from your side whether this is an issue also within the Caribbean states also, and if this cause is justified. And then secondly, President Masisi spoke about some who appoint themselves, especially in the financial sector, targeting other countries. I want you to maybe to shed more light on that one so that at least we can understand where this position is coming from. Thank you.
Is there any other question before we ask our Excellency? Yes, please. Kindly state your name as well and the media house you're from.
Good afternoon all. My name is Tato Musenyi with Botswana Press Agency. Your Excellency, President Masisi, you mentioned a lot about bilateral relations that exist between the Bahamas and Botswana. And while we just want to understand how do you gauge or how do you weigh the relationship between the two countries and how do they benefit and Uneri Botswana out there? And to the Prime Minister David, I understand that you are leading a high-powered delegation covering a wide range of portfolios. What exactly are you aiming to achieve at the end of this tour with your delegation? I thank you.
Can we allow that our Excellencies answer your questions? May we begin, sir? Your Excellency?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I think the first question was by Potlako from Botswana Guardian. Right? And you did say that there were 4 areas that we focused on based on last year's development. And what developments have there been? Well, when you visit a country like we did to Bahamas last year, one of the reasons for the official talks was to agree on those areas in which we would collaborate on. The next logical step is for those to be developed into programs of collaboration and cooperation. And usually they would result in an agreement document. And so since last year, when we went to the Bahamas, there have been discussions back and forth between the institutions concerned. Some have matured, and like you heard the Honourable Prime Minister state, between an institution in the Bahamas, an institution in Botswana in the agricultural space, they're going to sign an agreement. You heard that we are determined, as His Excellency stated, that we collaborate in the field of the health sciences and allied sciences for, I think, the area of nursing, similar to what they are doing with Ghana. That is an area that is still in discussion to finalize the actual terms of that collaboration, whether it focuses on training, whether it focuses on exchange of personnel, exchange of curricula, etc., will be done. In the area of tourism, the Prime Minister just made an announcement which has been an area in which we are discussing with the Bahamas for there to be an offer of opportunity for training in the area of tourism. Because Bahamas does exceptionally well with the tourism, exceptionally. I mean, they are way, way ahead of us. I just heard that you hit a record last year. Out of a population of just over 400,000 people, you had like 9 million visitors. 9 million. And these are not poor visitors. They were... And then this year, they're actually on the way to hopefully surpassing that figure. And so we want to learn how to get the same or close to the same from them. Because most of our tourism is wildlife, safari-based, and we pride ourselves a lot, consistent with maintaining our the delicate environmental footprint we have in the Kalahari and Okavango, where we have promoted low volume and high value. But you look at the figures, they're nowhere close to what they get in Bahamas. So there's something we've got to learn, right? We've also agreed to collaborate with the Bahamas in the field of digitizing our currency. And the offer came straight through that they will help us. And that requires engagement with the central bank, engagement with the Ministry of Finance. And so we've come much closer in these spaces. You know, the whole area of sport development that we talked about today. Bahamas, we learned, has the fastest women hurdles 60 meters in the world. World record. We have the fourth prettiest lady in the world. Come on. We've got to come up with something. But we also have the fastest young person, 100 meters, 200 meters in the world. They have arguably the best basketball team from a state their size, and they're threatening the biggest. They might come number one in the world. So there are certain things that they're doing in the area of sport development, technical, and the business side of it, which we can exchange notes on. I think we're pretty good when it comes to finding that unique raw talent to develop it, because we did the 400-meter men, and we did quite well. And the world 4x100-meter relay, we did well. We did the 400-meter athletics women some years ago. But it's patchy. We want it to be not patchy. We've also agreed to offer what we know and what we can that they'd like in the field of natural capital accounting. We've also made offers to share with them what we have accumulated as a body of knowledge and intellectual capital in the field of negotiating and striking deals with whosoever with respect to optimizing the value of your natural assets. And our biggest experience here comes from what we've done with diamonds. So I could on and on. We've moved further. We would sign a few more agreements. We've made offer of 10 scholarships at graduate level to citizens of Bahamas, tenable at the University of Botswana and Botswana University of Agriculture and Natural Resources, Buan, where the Prime Minister will deliver what promises to be a riveting public lecture. Come to it and be in awe of this esteemed attorney, King's Counsel. Just moved from being Queen's Counsel to King's Counsel. And the other, should I go on to the other questions? Did I? So we talked about how Bahamas excels in tourism, so we can learn a lot from that. Researchers, yes, Bahamas will collaborate, and part of the research will be through student study. But we are as yet to finalize the agreement with respect to researchers in other fields that might be applicable. I don't know if we told the Prime Minister and his delegation that we were the first in the world, at least a few hours ahead of the second, who discovered the Omicron variant of COVID. We were the first in the world. First means number one. And anything after number one is second, third, and so we, with our technology and the agility and prowess of our intellect and focus and the passion that we felt because COVID had really affected us, we were able to discover this variant before the most sophisticated laboratories in the world, before those who taught us how to do it discovered it. We got there first. Now imagine one day we will get to the discovery of a medical therapeutic to some epidemic first, yet again. And we should be the first to patent it. Now we want to share these with our brothers. We get along very well with the Bahamas, and so we want to share these experiences with them. We learned a lot from our experiences with HIV/AIDS. You know, who at one time were the most afflicted country in the world. And something had to come out of it. But I bet you a lot more will come out of it. Watch this space. During the last year's visit to the Bahamas, what are the priorities that we focused on? I articulated them already. Tourism, digital currency, and digitizing our currencies, and financial management, trading that platform, because Bahamas is really big on that. And obviously, the enablers that come with it, the regulatory framework for that to be, is important. The Bahamas have been grey listed and they extricate themselves out of it. And we learn from that. You know, Stella Morocco, who's a PS in the Ministry of Justice, asked me to thank, you know, a sterling official from the Bahamas, Ms. Tina Demerit, who studied with her in Barbados, because she helped us through Stella when we promulgated 23 pieces of legislation to help us get out of grey listing. And so even before all this, the person, people to people who had studied together, professional to professional, because of the commonalities of our values and where we stand, were able to help as, you know, the proud patriots of their countries would, helped one another even without agreements being in place. So there are a number of areas that we're really wanting to focus on together. We did tell the Prime Minister and his delegation that Botswana is intent on developing a knowledge-based economy, and the trading in intellectual capital, the acquisition of the skill sets required to transform knowledge into products, services, and actual products to trade in, and the marketing of that is well within our shores. Bahamas sits about, what, 50, you say miles, don't you? 50 miles, approximately, what, 108 kilometers? 180? It's about 80 kilometers. All right. Because I don't know what a mile is, so don't fault me. They sit about 80 kilometers off the shore of the US. And they have a port, harbor, they have relations with the US. They've offered for us to exploit their geographic location and their relations with the US for us to trade and use Bahamas as a conduit. What more can you ask for from a friend? And they do this willingly and happily. So we'd want to let them know also that we have joined the International Maritime Organization, because we also want to be a player at sea, landlocked as we might be, because Switzerland did it. Ethiopia did it. The natural thing is, why can't we did it? And we will be a player at sea. We will learn from friendly countries like the Bahamas, who are great shipbuilders and great tradesmen and women at sea, including maritime law and the law of the seas. You might know the Prime Minister is a distinguished lawyer, and think he's done a lot of work in that space too. So I want to learn from him, because I'm not good at law. I'll just send him our lawyers. They'll help us with that. Shall I give the Prime Minister an opportunity to answer, and then I can get the rest, because I don't want to.
I believe that would be fantastic, sir.
Thank you very much. It's indeed a pleasure, first of all, again, just to thank His Excellency Dr. Masisi and the people of Botswana for hosting us. I think, to put in perspective some of the questions, which seem to be rooted in the progress that has been made since the visit of Dr. Masisi to the Bahamas, let us not forget it was but a mere 6 months ago. And suffice it to say that I am satisfied with the progress that we have made to date on all those affairs. And I think the President is likewise satisfied. The collaboration has continued, and meaningful progress has been made. When we talk about, there's a question of joint challenges. What is the commonality between the two nations? But first of all, we are considered to be part of the global South. And in today's global world, this distinction is becoming sharper and sharper. And one thing that the global South cannot escape is that they cannot go it alone. We have to collaborate, we have to be in partnership. Otherwise, the global North will continue to exploit, dominate, and to keep us on our knees. And or put another way, as I was telling the President earlier, they'll continue to keep their knees on our neck. And so it is important that you appreciate the collaboration here. And I want to commend and acknowledge the role that your President has been playing in this affair. So, for example, you talk about the assault on the diamond, the recent initiative. Well, prior to the recent initiative, you would have heard him talk about the grey listing and the blacklisting. Right? And we look at the countries that were, in fact, targeted by that. And this all comes about because of the global North, the bloc called the European Union, and a bloc called the organization, the OECD. And they're the ones that have taken unto themselves the right to be the authoritarian and the police of the world in financial services matter. I stand here to say, for example, that the Bahamas was a leading financial services center in the world for many years. Come 2000, because of the assault on what I call the offshore jurisdictions, when that made up over 30% of my GDP, we are now struggling with around 15%, but I'm fighting back because of this blacklisting and grey listing imposed by the EU or the OECD without even consultation with the states that are targeted. I also point out, if anyone would appreciate, when you talk about the common features and why we have to be collaborating. If you look at the countries that are targeted or have been blacklisted, there's some commonalities. They're either small countries, small island developing states, one. They all have been former colonies or protectorate of one or other of that grouping. They're all black governed, and they're all continually being exploited or attempted to be exploited by the North. So it is for us to get together to respond to what's going on. Happily, I want to thank again your president, because he voted. I made complaints to the United Nations. Got some of my colleagues to join me, and there was a resolution that will now put the policing of what they call the global international tax structure and enforcement in the hands of the United Nations, where it'll be more transparent, where small island developing states like ourselves will have a say before any decisions are made, where we don't have that decision making, where we don't now participate in that decision. And happily, as I was saying to the president, my country is one of the members on the committee to craft the framework for that new tax world order, because it has been unfair. And we could talk about the consequences of it at another time, but that'll take some time. But it really excludes you as a nation from taking part in the international financial systems. Talking about the bridge between Africa and the Caribbean, yes, we acknowledge that we are the 6th district, and that we are now turning our minds to assisting Africa, and Africa turning its mind to assist the Caribbean, or their 6th district. It's a welcome initiative and a welcome paradigm shift in our global geopolitical issues. And so I'm championing it, and I'm reaching out, and we are moving to be closer to our brothers and sisters. That's who you are. I remark very, very often that I look in this audience and I could point and say, boy, doesn't he look like, right now I can say, Knowles, what's Knowles, who went to IMF for us, to the IDB. Knowles, yes. Calvin Knowles. I see Calvin Knowles in the audience right now, sitting right behind Joseph, our teaching. Just look. I could look and I could point to persons. I see Elmer Chase sitting right next to Calvin Knowles. The faces are so familiar. And so we are one, and we need to continue to deal with this. I just wrote some thoughts down from the questions being asked. Someone asked about the United Nations Council. Yes, we believe in that the UN, the United Nations Security Council, and the United Nations itself need to be revamped and reformed. It doesn't make sense that you have how many nations in it? 180 nations. You could have 179 voting one way, and one country decide that they're not going to proceed on the basis of what the majority would want. This is as an example. We all understand what's going on in Israel right now. I mean, there's an outcry now, and because of countries exercising their veto power, nothing is happening to bring relief or to bring peace to the Middle East. And the time has come for the UN to be the UN and what is established for, to ensure peace is in the world. And peace will not be in the world as long as you have one country with the ability to say no to it. Your Excellency,
Thank you.
there are other matters we can speak to, but...
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. I concur completely with the answer provided by our Prime Minister with respect to the United Nations Security Council. We exchanged notes on this, and these were brought about because of our common position with respect to how we look at the multilateral order. And so in coming together, there's a great dividends to be drawn out of this collaboration and this relationship. Tato Musinyi, I think you asked about the weighing of relations with Bahamas and how they benefit the ordinary Botswana. I think you may have deduced from the answers given both by myself and Prime Minister Davis that this relationship is not only cordial and warm and brotherly, it's really intended to be what you see, meant for common good, for the public good of the people of the Caribbean, and more specifically the people of Bahamas, the people of Africa, and more specifically the people of Botswana. There's reciprocity. There's mutual admiration. We just haven't registered the society yet. But there's mutual admiration and respect for each other. These speak to the criteria attributes of good neighborliness or peace. So the ordinary Botswana derives, the ordinary Bahamian derives dividends of peace in this relationship. Comfort in knowing that we look out for them, and confidence in that their leaders are at work and they have the skin in the game for them. When you talk of our natural assets, our beaches, the tourism we get from that, the game, the wildlife, the tourism we derive from that, and the skills that people have, and your leaders talk about collaboration, it is the citizens who would be the first beneficiaries out of that in terms of enhancement of the skill, and particularly young people. When you talk about reimagining the valuation of assets and the negotiation of what those would mean when reduced to agreements, it is our citizens who benefit out of enhanced revenue, more sustained revenue. Look, in Botswana, Your Excellency, we literally extricated ourselves out of an enslaving agreement with the multinational, De Beers, which, to my horror and shock, defined that we should never, we would never, must never, and by golly, we agreed to it, aspire to compete with De Beers by beneficiating our diamonds. And so we locked ourselves in to a revenue stream that would never go beyond 25%, 15% of the potential value of diamonds. So 85% we denied ourselves. Yes, De Beers is a company that has its headquarters in the global north. And they made wonderful speeches. Ambassador Mokgweetsi will tell you he was minister, and he responded in kind in his time about how they admired these relations. We broke that. We liberated ourselves out of it. And so when it comes to tourism and the ownership of the tourism potential, even in the Bahamas, the same should happen. The owners of those land masses are the Bahamian people. It could never be that even when you procure from outside, you'll own forever and ever. Rebalance that. It's important. And if there's to be equity in the world, and you start off from a point of disequilibrium, it's just basic moments, physics. You just add more weight to where there's less weight, and they come to near equilibrium. That's all we're doing. How could it not be good for our citizens? How could it not? Even the storylines, the narrative, the descriptions, the documentation, the capturing the moment that you have in licensing terms. If you look at the enormity of leases that we've given out in the Delta, which deny you the opportunity to go and film in that space, we want it cut up so that you too can have a share of our citizens. It's only intended to benefit our citizens. So everything we do, we're at work 24/7 with the Prime Minister. He didn't sleep, traveling all night for his citizens. And we are at work today explaining what we do. And we do it happily for our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellencies. I would want to ask if there are any more questions from members of the media. If there are none, sir, please.
My name is Daniel. My name is Daniel Chida from The Voice newspaper. I'll face our visitor there. Looking at your delegation, I only see majority is men. But according to the OAS report, it showed that you're marginalizing women again and exclude them in power-making decisions committees. Will that change? Thank you.
Is there another question?
I don't. Let me answer that, if I may. Well, my government has had more female participations in the decision-making process of governance in the country than ever before. We've had more women participate. We also have, in key positions, I can tell you that more than 80% of the permanent secretaries in the public service are women. And if I were to drill down, say, to the undersecretaries, the deputy permanent secretaries, the top echelon of my government public service, over 75% of the executive team of the public service made up of women. There's no doubt about that. Yes, we have today one female present here, but we have the director of the Director General of the Foreign Ministry. She's here. We also have the Chief of Staff and the Chief Operating Executive of the Office of the Prime Minister. She's here, another female. It's not just one female. We have four. Dr. Hannah, who is the principal and president of our agricultural vocational school. She is here, but she's busy talking with the Huan. You said you read it or you heard it? Because I want to know where you read it so we could correct that. And if you heard it, well then, what we say about hearsay, don't rely too much on hearsay, but you heard it from the horse's mouth. And we intend to expand women's participation in our governance. I've committed to it, and that's where I've been working on going forward. So,
Thank you, Excellency.
ladies, stand up and let them see you. And also, we have one of our, Tanisha was in the communication department in the office of the Prime Minister. So, no, we believe in the involvement of females at the highest level. I don't want to speak with the other, in other industries where we've been promoting and ensuring that women and young persons have a role in our governance.
Thank you, Excellency. Ma'am, please state your name and the media house that you come from.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Gino Lisitsa from Yarona FM. I'm curious about the digital currencies that you might be bringing to our country, given that it's a fairly new field, and we have seen that it is fairly unstable. I applaud what you've done with the framework you have introduced to the UN. I'm just wondering, is there a similar framework for digital currencies, given that there are so few countries who have perhaps piloted it so far? In Botswana, we are interested in a digital economy, but we are still struggling with the infrastructure. Are you going to be assisting with the infrastructure, or we're just looking at the software part? Can you please elaborate as to where the collaboration is going to focus?
We are prepared to share our experiences in this space. As you quite rightly point out, it is a new and emerging market that has really caught on, and the one thing that the world has recognized, that digital currency is here to stay, it's not going anywhere. And so proper regulation and ensuring that bad actors are kept out of the space is the target, and ensuring that you're protecting investors and ensuring bad actors stay out. You don't want the player who's just coming in to get a fancy yacht and 2 jets to be jetting around the world. We've had our experience, because one of the major collapses in the crypto world was FTX. They happened to be headquartered in the Bahamas, and because of our registry framework, we were able to quickly seize the assets. Of course, there was a fight between the Bahamas and the United States over jurisdictional issues as to who, where, and how the liquidation of FTX should take place. I can say that we prevailed despite what the courts in the United States said, because I was in possession of the assets, because I seized them. I was able to do so because of my regulatory framework. And after beating up on us as much as they can, they finally came and sat down, and we worked out an arrangement now where investors are not likely to lose anything as a result. It is here to stay, and the idea is to ensure that these cryptocurrencies are properly backed. One of the primary advantage, what is really attractive about digital currency, it is that it is inclusive, in the sense that you don't need to have banking relationships. The banking as you know it would be taking a backseat. I give you in the Bahamas, we have 700 islands spread over 100,000 square miles, and we have rural communities or settlements in these family islands. We don't have any banks in these family islands. And so how do they trade? How do they buy? We've discovered that the sand dollar, which is backed by a central bank, you have an app, you have a wallet, you go to a food store that's participating, and you use your phone to pay for, and you don't have to worry about the bank. You just top up at some point in time, you put some monies into your wallet, and you could, so it's more inclusive in the financial services. So that's what you'll find. What we want to do is share our experiences, and one of the good things about it is that if someone of Botswana and they need to pay a bill, they might be able to do so just from their phone. And that's the beauty of it. So we're prepared
Thank
to
you, Excellency.
lend your assist with the infrastructure, provide the legislative framework, and have the experts come in and talk to you all about it. Now, I'm up here with it, so the technical people come and give you all the other details that you might really need. Or I have my Minister of Economic Affairs, who's the driver behind it, is here to talk to anyone who might want to have further discussions on the more detailed aspect of the industry.
Thank you, Excellency. Before we close, Your Excellency, maybe you may want to also speak to the representation of women in our government as well. We are live, and we have stakeholders watching us, and they may be wondering what our representation is like. Thank you,
yes,
sir.
I can say the same as the Prime Minister started, that in my government, or since I assumed office, we've never had as many women in leadership positions in the executive as we do have now. My press secretary is right here, the first female press secretary in the history of this country. My three powerhouses, head of the public service, first female head of the public service, Emma. Deputy head of the public service, she's the third deputy head of the public service, but we've been consistent, it's female. And the permanent secretary in the Ministry of State President. And these three women run the office of the president, literally. And then right behind them, there's a lonely man in between two women, and he's their junior. One permanent secretary for youth and the other permanent secretary for agriculture, and he's a deputy PS for education. He is a deputy PS for education. The president of the Court of Appeal, first woman justice Court of Appeal. And we have the highest number of women ministers we've had, and MPs. Very low still, because we really struggle in the political leadership space for a variety of reasons. When you look at the permanent secretaries and all, close to 50% are female and growing. At the lower level, it's also very, very high female. And if you look at the movement into the sectors or professional areas where there's been a real underrepresentation of women, and the STEM subjects at school, in the science and tech innovation space, a lot of young women are moving into that. So it's an area that we're, watching very closely. We're determined to grow. We have just presented or tabled the Constitutional Review Bill, and in it, hopefully we'll be able, through some adjustment to our legal framework, increase the number of women who are in Parliament with the the associated potential to increase the number of women in cabinet through act of law. So it's a non-ending journey. There's a lot of spirited education to decontaminate those who think women can't do it, and ensure that we build the efficacy of women and the female in our system. So yes, in Botswana, we're also committed to making sure that we can increase the participation of women in critical positions. And as you know, in the military, we also have women. We have the first women commissioner of police. We had the first woman, until recently, of prisons. And more are coming. I don't want to say when, but more are coming.
Thank you, Excellency. I believe we have come to the end of our joint press briefing, and I would humbly request that we allow our Excellencies to take leave. And once again,
Marcel,
yes, sir.
the Prime Minister wants to make some closing statement.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I think it's important to appreciate the commonality here. And the efforts here is basically to ensure that our citizens in each of our nations benefit from the collaboration that we are here espousing and promoting. For example, I did not touch on it, but the issue of AIDS and the efforts that's being engaged in by the government to reduce its prevalence. We also had our challenges with this subject matter, and in fact, our czar of this pandemic, Dr. Perry Gomez, who unfortunately has just passed away, was quite a pioneer in this area, and was the one who initiated and discovered the cure, if I could use that word, not cure, but the treatment from the pregnant women passing it on to their child. So there's a body of work in the Bahamas on the subject matter, and we have been able to arrest it, and I think our percentage of population that's with it now is just diminished. And of course, we had a very robust and engaging, meaningful relationship with the Clinton Foundation with whom Dr. Gomez worked for many, many years. That helped to bring down the costs of treatment, and also in recent times, the new drugs that's coming out that even almost they're very near to a vaccine, I'm hearing. So access to those drugs, I think we could collaborate on and see how we could help with the situation here. But the bottom line, and also we have, as I said, common challenges. Food security, for example, is a challenge for us. My country has what I call a consumptive economy. One time in the past, we used to eat what we grow, but now we eat what we import, because most of our food is imported. And so we have had a paradigm shift. That's why we are very interested in collaborating in agriculture, because we're investing largely in that to be able to feed ourselves. But part of the challenge for your food security is climate change, which we didn't touch on, and it's impacting us just as it's impacting you with your unseasonal heat waves. With us, we have unseasonal heat wave as well. But the more frequent hurricanes and the intensity of those hurricanes, one hurricane could wipe out most of my GDP. The last hurricane we had, Dorian, cost us about $3.45 billion in loss and damage, when my annual income is under $3 billion. So 3 days of experiencing one hurricane wiped out my whole income for 1 year. So that's the challenges we have. And if you look at it further, when we look at our debt to GDP, our debt to profile, most of it is because we had to borrow for recovery and reconstruction because of climate change. Here you have the challenges with the heat, which threatens your farm product, and the voices we have to join together is to ensure that the global north contribute to ensuring that we are able to adapt, mitigate, and recover from our losses and damages, and that they live up to their commitments to us to ensure that we be able to access the climate funding and other concessionary loans to be able to mitigate and adapt to this existential threat that's threatening our lives and livelihood. We are a graduated state because of so you're you're a middle income country, so you're not qualifying to get concessionary loans. They say I'm a high income earning state, so I'm not qualified. Hence we need to revamp the whole financial architecture to ensure that we have a chance to survive in this new existential space we find ourselves in as a result of the changing and seasonal weather patterns that's being experienced worldwide. But I want to say that I'm heartened that I did come in accepting this invitation to see the progress that's being made here. I was hearing about it, and I'm looking forward to going to the Delta, because everyone said that I must be there to see how we measure up.
Yes.
And no doubt there are a lot of things that we can share together. I want to thank you all for listening to us. We and my delegation, they're very pleased, and I know that they will be here to listen, to share, and to come up with ways and means that we can continue to progress our people and our nations. Thank you very much.
They were asking me, Your Excellency, if you had tasted the beef yet.
Oh.
And wondering what...
Oh, excellent. I was the proud beneficiary of some beef back in September. Your president, in fact, I think it was in Kigali we spoke, and he's bragging about this beef and how it's better than the Texas beef. And he said, one day I'll bring some to you. And he lived up to that promise. And I must say, I've not tasted any that good yet.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, really, and thanks to your delegation. We'll keep at it. We're at work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. May we please rise as our Excellencies are led out of the briefing room. Thank you, members of the media, for attending. Thank you so much.